Thank you for being with us tonight. This meeting has been brought to you in part by
Let Grand Forks International Airport help you start your next vacation off on the right foot. Grand Forks International Airport offers flights to the sunny destinations of Orlando, Las Vegas, and Phoenix on Allegiant, and connections anywhere in the world through Minneapolis-St. Paul on Delta. Forget the hassle of long drives, parking nightmares, and stressful check-ins. The convenience of flying locally means less headaches and more time for you. Grand Forks International Airport. Your airport. Simply grand.
How many things in your house connect to the internet? Let's see. Computers, smartphones, gaming console, maybe your appliances and lights. They say that by the year 2020, the average home will have 5 devices for every one person. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to be average. We're going to need much better internet.
Midco Extreme Gig is here. Life changing.
Know what's in this box? Well, in case your crystal ball is broken, here's a hint. Safe, reliable energy, for starters, but there's also a commitment to this community. See, at Xcel Energy, this is our hometown. So we're not just about making a living here, we're about living here. Oh, I wish I had wings.
In our community, we're always delivering. Xcel Energy, responsible by nature.
As a farm kid from North Dakota, I was raised to face challenges head on. But that was put to the test when I was diagnosed with cancer as a teenager. Now, I'm determined to help kids overcome illnesses like I did. So I started my journey at the University of North Dakota. With hard work and determination, I'll help others like my doctors helped me. I'm making my impact. How will you make yours?
Good evening. This is the time and place for the Grand Forks Growth Fund and Jobs Development Authority. We'll begin with roll call.
Weigel.
Here.
Doppler. Here. Weber.
Here.
Mock. Here. Marshall. Sandy. Dean. Mayor Brown. We have a quorum.
Very good. Thank you. Start with item 2.1. Flex-based loan request from Visito Investments, LLC. Ms. Richards.
Good evening. This FlexPace loan request is for a daycare facility. As you may recall, the Growth Fund extended the PACE program to daycares, I believe, in 2016, so this will be the second loan request for this particular use. Visito Investments is the holding company for Giving Tree Childcare, and so now I'm going to turn it over to Brandon to talk about the particulars of this request.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Meredith, and members of the JDA. It's an exciting project addressing a need in Grand Forks. So Visito Investments, as Meredith outlined, is starting a childcare center, Giving Tree Childcare, which is a project to both purchase the building, make some improvements to the building, and purchase equipment. Total project costs of just under $900,000, which will increase the capacity or open up 100 spots for children of 5 ages or less. This will also create 24 jobs. That's a combination of both full-time and part-time. The financing is such that Choice Bank is the lead bank on this for $643,000, which is the note in which we're being requested to buy the interest rate down to 1% on. So the request from you is a loan of $106,000 that would leverage $197,000 from the bank in North Dakota to participate in that FlexPace childcare program. Loan to value is 98% on this. It is guaranteed with both personal guarantees and a mortgage and UCC filings on the equipment. Tonight we're looking for approval of that FlexPace. We are joined tonight by the principals of the company, both Tony and Nancy Visito. They'll be carrying out this project in partnership with their son Matt and his wife Heather Visito. And so They have a long history. Tony Vecito actually had opened one of these child care centers in another state before, so he'll bring that experience here to Grand Forks and open up 100 new spots for kids here in Grand Forks. So I'm happy to stand for any questions, or of course, they're here for any questions too.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Bowman. So we'll open a public hearing on item 2.1A. Does anyone wish to speak? Anyone wish to speak? Any comments or questions from JDA board members? Looking for a motion? We will close the public hearing. We've got a motion and a second. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Item 2.1B, PACE loan request from Acme Tools. Ms. Richards.
As your staff report says, this is an expansion that Acme is undertaking at their location in our business park. They were our first business park tenant. Acme's got a long history in Grand Forks, being founded here in 1948, so it's very exciting to see them grow and thrive here. And again, I'll let Brandon talk about the details.
Thank you very much, Meredith and members of JDA. As Meredith mentioned, their long history of a company that's had to change a little bit with the times. They've evolved from a retail operation out the front door to embracing more of an e-commerce model, and so that's what this project is about here today. You've heard a little bit about this project directly from the company before when they came in front of this body or in front of the City Council for a property tax exemption. And so this is the same project. It's to double the size of their distribution center in the business park, which is another 40,000 square feet, which would create another 8 jobs in the immediate future, but promises to create many more than that. This project is requesting a loan to participate in the PACE program. So from you, a $161,000 loan to leverage $300,000 from the Bank of North Dakota to buy the interest rate down on a Wells Fargo loan to 1%. This loan to value is sub 70%. It's a good place where you like to see it. It is secured both in a personal guarantee and a mortgage, like we always see on these deals, but even further than that, Acme Tools has assigned a certificate of deposit and named the JD as a direct beneficiary, so it is very secure. This has been in front of the Grand Forks Region EDC Board for approval and in front of the Growth Fund Committee just 2 weeks ago. Today, we're joined by both Steve Kuhlman and Steve Hetland from the company, both the CFO, Steve Hetland, and then VP of Corporate Administration and Business Development, Steve Kuhlman. They're happy to stand for any questions, as am I.
Very good, thank you. So open a public hearing on item 2.1B. Does anyone wish to address? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and looking for questions, comments, or a motion. We have a motion from Mr. Sandy, second from Mr. Vian. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Item 2.1C, PACE loan request from Paragon Pro. Ms. Richards.
This PACE request is from Paragon Pro Holdings. They, the principals were former employees of TelPro, and they acquired the business from TelPro last year. Now they're acquiring the actual real estate. TelPro was a client of the JDA many years ago, so with the closing of this sale, we'll disperse a loan to Paragon Pro, but then we'll get a TelPro loan paid back. So again, Brandon could talk about the details.
Thank you, Meredith. Members of the JDA, it's an exciting project to be working on because a couple internal employees said we think we can make some changes and really improve the standing of this company, and they said within a year we might be in a position to purchase the real estate, and that's right where they're at today. So this project in front of you represents that. It's a $3.5 million project, but they're doing this through an SBA 504 program, so a private lender participates in half that amount of $1.7 million. That's where the request of $215,000 from you would leverage a $400,000 participation from the Bank of North Dakota to buy that half of the loan down to 1%. Again, the loan to value here is 72%, right where we'd like to see it. They're looking to create 8 jobs in the near future. And the security is provided both in the mortgage as well as personal guarantees. The team Trent Balmer, who has made it in front of the Growth Fund, is unfortunately sick today, so he couldn't make it here. But Dave Upham is here in the back representing the company, as well as Scott Schultz with the Bremer Bank, who participates in this deal. If there are any questions, I'm sure they'd be happy to take it, as would I.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Brombach. We'll open a public hearing on item 2.1C. Invite anyone forward who wishes to address this. Hearing no one, we'll close the public hearing. Look for a motion. A motion from Mr. Weigel, seconded by Ms. Dockler. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Which brings us to item 2.1D, Startup Grand Forks loan request from Red Pine Distillery. Mr. Brombach.
I'm thinking to get a chair up here. Thank you for the opportunity to present on the Startup Grand Forks application. We just given an update on this program 2 years in, and it's gaining more steam. And this is a really great example of that. Tyler Syme is the principal of Red Pine Distillery. He's a native of East Grand Forks, attended UND, earning a degree in chemistry, and now works for Crystal Sugar. And he has put all of that into play and developed a way of distilling from sugar beets and others, a way of making vodka and other products. So he's at a point where he has started operation but needs just a little bit of help to grow and be able to accept new markets. Particularly, he's targeting the Minnesota Twin Cities market. And as those sales come through, he'll need a few new pieces of equipment, including a distillation system, a fermentation tank, proofing and blending tank, and a mash pump. And so that comes together as a cost of about a $40,000 project. 25% of is his own equity of $10,000 per the program requirements. The Bank of North Dakota participates at $10,000, which is 25% of the deal. And then half of that deal is being requested from the Startup Grand Forks program, which is lent at a 5% rate for a term of 5 years, and is the first year deferred, both principal and interest, to help him get going. This has gone through the process of Startup Grand Forks. First, being vetted by the loan committee, got approval, went to the North Dakota Development Fund, which is who the Bank of North Dakota uses to do their own vetting. And then also it was at the Grand Forks Growth Fund Committee just 2 weeks ago. So Tyler's here if there are any questions about his process or this request, or I am here too, of course, to answer any questions. Thank you.
Very good. So we'll open a public hearing on item 2.1D, Startup Grand Forks loan request from Red Pine Distillery. Anyone wish to come forward? Congratulations, Brandon, on Startup Grand Forks, catching some real traction and on your request, Tyler. Hearing no one, we'll close the public hearing. Looking for a motion or comment on Mr. Vian motions and Mayor Brown seconds. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thanks. Which brings us to 2.1E, Corporate Center 2 tenant lease modifications. Ms. Richards.
Ann Love Boutique is one of two retail tenants that we have on the first floor of Corporate Center 2. They've got about 2,600 square feet that they rent in that building. They have come to us with a request to defer part of that rent for a year's time in recognition of the anticipated loss of foot traffic and anticipated loss in business income due to the construction on Demers. They're currently at a base rent of $10 a square foot plus $5.60 a square foot in CAM charge. They've asked for those to both be basically cut in half and deferred for a year's time. There is a typo in your staff report that states it should be deferred through June 30th of 2019. That should read June of 2020. This request was just discussed downstairs at Growth Fund Committee this afternoon, and the recommendation was to approve it as submitted.
Very good. And not only is this in recognition of potential loss of revenue during construction, but likely increase in revenue after the construction. So we'll open a public hearing on 2.1E. Anyone wish to speak to this matter? We'll close the public hearing. Looking for comments or a motion. Motion from Mr. Sandy, second from Mayor Brown. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. That brings us to the end of the agenda, looking for a motion to adjourn. Motion second from Mr. Sandy, and all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
The City of Grand Forks, the proud home of the University of North Dakota City Council meeting Monday, June 3rd, 2019 is hereby called to order. Welcome and roll call.
Weigel.
Here.
Dockler. Weber.
Here.
Mock. Marshall. Sandy. And Veen. We have a quorum.
1.2 is the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone please stand and face the flag. And the council is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, thank you. Under 1.3, Mayor's announcements, I want to thank all the sponsors who helped with the 31st Annual Kids Fishing Derby at Larimore Dam for the children at the base. And it was a wonderful time, and I thank all the volunteers and sponsors who made that happen. Congratulations to the graduates. And don't forget, Art on the Red is at the University Park this weekend, the 8th and 9th of June. And Anything Goes sale, I think, is at the Alaris. That's quite the garage sale. I would encourage everyone to get there early. And farmers markets will be starting June 15th. And it'll be across from City Hall. So we expect to see you there. And after that, we go to item 2, awards, presentations, appointments, and proclamations, 2.1.
Water plant update.
Ms. Millie, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Brown, members of the City Council. Tonight, I've asked Sherry Edelblut, who's the Senior Project Manager, to come back to you and share some information about the startup of the actual water treatment plant. We had talked about that a couple weeks ago when we were here. So Sherry.
Hi, thanks for having me back. So in terms of our water treatment plant and our project and our startup, and it's very complex, we have this very collaborative but conservative approach. And so we have a great team aspired and put together, but we over 9 months have kind of put this together. So when we talk about startup, this is what we mean. Fortunately tonight, we're not going to go through this diagram in detail, but this is what the plant has been working together on, including our key component, having our existing plant operators, their maintenance people, their startup and superintendents involved in the process so that we all can understand and meet the intent. In general, we have 3 phases. Sorry, these are being cut off. I don't know if you can see the whole screen. I apologize for that. We have 3 phases, so a dry checkout. And a dry checkout, that's where we're just checking the installation, the nuts and bolts, if you will. Sometimes, often, the manufacturer will come at that stage and look at our equipment. And in fact, at the water treatment plant, he has been out to look at our clarifiers. And so those have been signed off in the dry checkout form. What that means is now we can go to the wet checkout. Wet checkout means we've probably introduced a load. Typically in our case, it's water, and it can be clean water. So a lot of the testing that we're doing for a long period of time is still with clean water. That's making sure the mechanisms are working. And then we get to the point of introducing some less than clean water, and we'll make it clean. And so in that process, that's where we turn in between our wet checkout and our operational demonstration. And so that's where we're proving the equipment is doing what it's supposed to do. Cleaning the water, adding the chemical, removing the solids. Also during this process, this is where we get the baseline for the equipment. So let's think, well, you go to the doctor and you have a temperature. Well, you need to know what your normal body temperature is to know its relativity of what something is wrong, or is it an indication something may be wrong. And so during this process, we're collecting all of that information for the plant staff to have the way their equipment operates when it's new and healthy. Okay, so we're back to this chart. So those are the 3 phases, and then let's talk about the systems in general. We talk about air, water, solids. That's the behind the scenes, non-glamorous, and actually not total part of the cleaning of the water, air. Most of our valves are pneumatic actuated, so we need to make sure that the air system is up and running so that when we call a valve, it opens. Water. We need some water to make clean water. We need it to mix with our chemicals. So we want to make sure that system is up and running. And then solids. Most processes have a byproduct that we're creating some solids, and we want to make sure the solid system is working properly. Then we're ready. So that's kind of the back support system to check out our conventional system. As we check out our conventional train systems, like the clarifier we looked at, we get to a point of we're doing things in a very closed system. So water at this point, even if raw water or clean water is coming in, we're not sending it to distribution. It's in a closed system that we're just practicing making water. And we just spin it through the paces, if you will. When we start making water, and we could put a flag here between conventional and membrane, at some point the city of Grand Forks will be putting the water into distribution. That will be conventional water to distribution. And then we'll continue in a very closed system to continue to test the membrane system. That's your UF and your RO. All the time, so we've got our existing plant, and at first it's up and running. Our plant is just practicing. When we decide to make the switch, we'll actually have the existing plant still running or in standby, and we're going to make conventional water, and then the switch will be made. So the existing plant will always still be online and available in a standby motion until we decide that we can make the final transition into the membrane water, and then we'll decommission the existing plant. So we're very redundant, we're very conservative, we're very collaborative, and we're going to be your water treatment plant. I'll ask if there are any questions.
Any questions, Mr. Vian?
Right.
I made the recommendation beforehand that I wanted to come out and do a visit. I would suggest anybody from the council that wants to go out before the basins are full of water to come out and take a look at it and do a tour too. So there may be some time that we could have more than one of us come out and take a look.
Mr. Phelan.
Mayor Brown, members, City Council, when I was here last time this is related to funding, I thought we would be at the June meeting to ask for an additional $9 to $10 million. And so the State Water Commission responded back to see if we could come in the August meeting because they were going to be overly burdened on their June meeting. So we're going to go to the plan to proceed to the August 8th State Water Commission meeting to receive our additional 9 to 10 million. We'll likely provide an update to the State Water Commission and the governor about the progress we've made and what we have left to do. So at that point in time, so I just want to give you an update on that.
Well, thank you. And we'll make sure there's not too many. We don't need an open meeting violation. So coordinate with Mr. Phelan and we'll do that. Thank you. Item 2.2, 2.3, and 2.4 will be handled together.
Okay, 2.2, Downtown Action Planning Update.
And 2.3.
2.3, UND Partnership Cooley to Columbia and Beyond Update. And 2.4 is the Knight Foundation Grant, University Avenue Visioning between UND campus and downtown.
Mr. Phelan.
Mayor Brown and members of City Council, we're going to provide you updates on some of the downtown action plan. We're at a point where some of the concepts have come to fruition. Number two, I'm going to give Meredith is going to get an update on the downtown action plan. I'm going to give you an update on the Cooley to Columbia and Beyond, some of the things that we're working on quickly. And then the third piece of this is Jonathan Holt from the Knight Foundation is going to be here to announce an award to discuss some of the space in between the two nodes of UND and downtown Grand Forks. So also we're really thankful for Mayor Brown and members of City Council for us to even work on things that we've done with Cooley and Columbia and the downtown, and now the exciting part is where we're seeking action. So we're thankful that we're at this point, and some of these items, specifically on the downtown action plan, you will start seeing in the 2020 budget. So we wanted to give you a forecast of what things look at now, and so that when we start seeing some of these items in July as part of the budget, you at least have some concept of where we're going, and we can get some feedback today. So thank you.
So my role here is to kind of update you on what has been happening over the years since RDG Planning and Design was hired to do this downtown action plan. So In terms of background, you may recall the Mayor's Vibrancy Initiative. Thank you, Mayor, was kind of the precursor to this. That developed kind of a high-level vision for what downtown should be. And one of the recommendations coming out of that process was that the city really needed to commit to a comprehensive planning process to kind of make that vision a reality. Some of the impetus for hiring RDG when we did was the fact that with upwards of $100 million of investment, both public and private sector anticipated in our downtown in the coming 5 years, we really needed to build a strong foundation for this. So again, RDG is building on the vision. You can see that graphic up there kind of shows the footprint of downtown and some of the key elements. And so those 4 main focus areas there are listed below: streetscape, parks and open space, development strategies, and wayfinding. So I'm just going to kind of walk through the concepts that have been developed over the past year that relate to those 4 focus areas, talk a little bit about the public engagement and input piece, and then next steps. Again, this is an action plan. We're not going to bring a master planning document to you for adoption. You're going to see what the consultant refers to as a compendium approach. So each of those elements will be a bit of a standalone document. And so those compendia will contain concepts that will kind of set the stage for future implementation. This isn't, bringing you shovel-ready projects for approval, more concepts that will then become placeholders in the budget for projects over time. The streetscape, which of course is underway now on Demers, was really the Demers project created a really fast-track approach for RDG to do this. Their process is typically a little more relaxed, leisurely, but in this case, they moved it to the top of the line so that we could get in the ground as we are right now. In terms of the goals, we really wanted to give some street life and animate downtown. Design matters was a key element. Lighting was seen as a very important distinctive feature, and so this slide shows some of those streetscape elements: bike rack, planters. The theme that RDG picked up on, kind of based on some of the feedback about how appealing the paddle wheel was to the public and how that's become kind of an iconic part of Grand Forks, was a river and paddle wheel theme. And so you'll see in this a bit of a paddle wheel form in the pavers, and then there's a lighted element that will have a blue LED light to kind of give that water sense. I do want to kind of point out that this light tube feature here is a very distinctive element, and in the Demers streetscape or the reconstruction project that's going on now, the DOT is going to install this pedestal, which will be wired, but this final really distinctive element is going to be a future project, a great opportunity to make something really unique to Grand Forks and possibly involve local artists, but we won't be seeing that as when the DOT project's completed. That'll be a future phase. So here's kind of looking at the concept for Demers. You can see this shows kind of what the intersection and crosswalk pattern will look like. You can see different colored pavers. We've got amenities kind of stretching throughout the streetscape that, again, with that paddle wheel river motif and a couple different views of that, different perspectives. Here's more from a street level view. This would be 4th Street with, corporate center on either side looking west towards the overpass. You can see that those lighted elements are pretty substantial, and this kind of gives you a sense of what the new street lights would look like. And then again, this is, while Demers was really the driving factor, it is to give us a kind of a design vocabulary for streetscape throughout downtown. So those 2 lower images, you can kind of see how it relates to Town Square. And then over here, this would be bringing it up to North 3rd Street. Just as a side note, we did receive word from DOT that 3rd Street reconstruction would be, was approved for urban grant program funding. And I think probably it's safe to say that the reason we did get funded was that we have this streetscape design in place, and DOT saw that this project would actually be ready and follow a plan. So I think we're a little bit ahead of the game already on streetscape. Wayfinding, as you can see here, this would be signage to direct both motorists and pedestrians to and through downtown. Again, this is a concept that will probably be incorporated into that streetscape compendium. This shows how again, the paddle wheel motif is being used with our new color scheme with UND green and airman blue. And then we've got a mock-up here showing how that, might actually look as a public parking sign on the central ramp. Parks and Open Space, their charge was not just to give us some great designs for parks and open space, but to kind of give us some clarity on which spaces would be improved versus which spaces were more of a transitional space awaiting redevelopment. Town Square, of course, was a key beloved park. Probably the most public input and interest revolved around the Town Square process. Loon Park was seen as very important. Chamber or Depot Park, as the consultants began to refer to it, that was seen as a great opportunity to invest in a greenway access point that could be really spectacular. And then some other opportunities would be looking at alleys as more than alleys, 3rd Street as a festival space, and then the other pocket parks would be more transitional. The image there is of what's currently Pillsbury Park, so you can see it still retains some open space, but there's an infill building there on the right that would be, a little bit of imagined as a pop-up or a incubator space. This shows you a couple of park concepts. The top one is Loon Park, so you can see it retains some of those elements of the streetscape to really tie things together. You can see this kind of almost a gateway feature to 3rd Street, so that it gives a little added importance to Loon Park, as well as an opportunity to gate off 3rd Street if you wanted to have a festival space. The bottom one is one of my favorites. This reimagines the parking lot between City Hall and Central High as a convertible lot that could be used for parking, as well as, kind of a plaza area where students could hang out. The mayor could have important ceremonies outside as well as in council chambers. This is a look at a reimagined chamber park. As I mentioned earlier, the consultant saw this as a great opportunity to access the greenway in a way that would really kind of draw attention to it and give you a multi-use space. Also an opportunity to potentially relocate the arbor there, where it could kind of continue to function as it did in its original location for photo ops or, wedding ceremonies, where you could have a little bit of seating or overflow space right here. As I said earlier, Town Square was probably the most exciting project from the public's point of view, and this kind of shows you a little bit of RDG's process. Their typical process is to get input. What do you love about this space? Paddle wheel was a big element. What would you change? Based on the public input, then they did a series of sketches. This was done at a design studio that was held at the Herald Community Room, so you could actually watch them work. And then based on these various elements and concepts that were shown, this is the final look for their concept for Town Square. So this, as you can see, the paddle wheel, is retained where it is. Playground has been moved to the rear of the park rather than front and center. We've got kind of a temporary pergola here to provide shelter without really building a building attached to this privately owned building. We've got water pad. You can also see that the walls are gone and the streetscape elements and Town Square kind of blend seamlessly into a relocated and improved stage. Here's kind of a street level view that shows Town Square, but also gives you a good look at those streetscape elements. And then in winter, that green space turf area can become a skating rink. And the pergola area could perhaps function as something of a warming house. In terms of development strategy, this map shows some of the areas that were either talked about or already redeveloped when RDG was hired, as well as some key opportunities. The keys here are really the water treatment plant site and the opportunities that provides, as well as developing some guidance for how to update our downtown design guidelines in that process so that as these projects move forward, we've got the right tools in place. These images are all about the water treatment plant site. You can see looking from 4th Street towards the river, and then the bottom view is the reverse from the river looking down and into town. The concept here is to kind of recognize that we've got an established historic residential neighborhood that's primarily pretty low density, and to take that space and really increase the density, but still provide lots of different housing options for downtown, still respecting the context that's there today, and kind of letting the density increase as you get closer and closer to the river, from single family here to 3-story row houses with tuck-under parking along the flood wall. This basically eliminates 3rd Street as a street, and it becomes more of a pedestrian promenade. This is, I don't know, on the order of 70 to 80 housing units would be added. And then back here we show a more conventional downtown kind of mixed use multifamily building with multifamily on the upper stories and then commercial on the main floor. Another site that RDG highlighted is really ripe for redevelopment is, this is currently the county's surface parking lot. This is the county courthouse here. They see redevelopment here as obviously a better use than surface parking, but it kind of bridges that pedestrian desert that if you're walking along 4th Street, you've got quite a gap to cross with nothing very interesting from when you leave the corporate center and go past parking garages, transit, railroad tracks, surface parking. This is just a concept of one way to redevelop that space that does lots of good things for downtown, as well as takes care of the parking that would be lost through kind of reworking the police department parking, which is already underway to a certain extent, and then the old jail would become parking here. This also kind of highlights the great amenity that we have in the bike path. It follows the railroad tracks, but just kind of ends at 5th Street. They see opportunities to really kind of draw that bike path through a park system and through a walkway system to really more explicitly connect it to 3rd Street and then to Town Square and the Greenway. The other key element for that previous redevelopment is, obviously I don't have a great visual for redrafting design guidelines or form-based code, but that is another key element that we'll talk about a little bit more here real soon. In terms of the public engagement process, when RDG started here about a year ago, they did this digital listening survey, got what they considered an overwhelmingly strong response with over 770 respondents. Lots of visitors to their website, focus groups, workshops, design studios, open houses. They took all of that input and refined it to the concepts that you've seen today that were presented at this Discover Downtown event on May 1st. That's 110 attendees. We were very pleased with that, considering it was a pretty gray, rainy day. And then if you look, we had comment cards available, 73 written responses, 56 that really responded to the specifics of the event, an 84% positive comment rate, lots of head nodding at that event. The steering committee, I think, really needs kudos and thanks and to be commended for taking a lot of various concepts, input, and turning it into the great designs that you saw in this presentation. In terms of next steps, RDG took basically the month of May to refine those concepts that were presented. So in the coming month, we will be getting drafts of the compendium documents on those different subjects and continue to work on the more code-related design standards and form-based code recommendations. Then come July, we will be able to publish those draft compendia on the city website, and then we'll bring those final documents back to City Council for final action. In terms of updates, that's all I have on that downtown action plan, but I did want to give you a quick update on the Herald Building. We did, as you may recall, the JDA acquired that on May 1st. So as well as kind of settling in with our tenants and our new role as landlord, we have issued a request for qualifications for master planning and design services. That was advertised the middle of May. The deadline for responses is this Friday. We've got a selection committee on tap that represent our strategic partners in that building, UND, council members, EDC, others that, you know, either current or anticipated tenants in the building. And then we hope to take that committee's recommendation for selecting a consultant to the JDA on July 1st, with hopefully see construction happening over the winter months of 2019 and 20.
Well, thank you. This is quite exciting. Any comments or questions from council? Mr. Sandy.
Thank you, Mr. Maritz. Ms. Richards, we don't own the property where the Chamber Park is, correct?
Correct. This
So
would be
how
a
are we
unique
gonna-
public-private partnership opportunity here to take advantage of its great location by the Greenway, but work with the Chamber on. They do not want to relinquish that site, but the consultants did see some pretty terrific possibilities for its use as a public park.
Sure. So is the Chamber going to be putting in any funds to help us with that?
You know, we haven't got to the point of
haven't
coming
got
up with budgets or details, but
Sounds
it'll,
good. Appreciate that. The last one, the water treatment plant redevelopment. I thought that the consultants had come back and said that that should be all single-family housing. How did we get to now multiple mixed use? I saw a draft design months ago that showed only single families in there.
I don't recall any draft ever having only single family. They did make a point of, you know, there were some who thought that a very dense high-rise structure might be good there. Their response to that was, you know, it needs to fit the context of the existing neighborhood, so that kind of gradual increase of density from single family on 4th Street, then getting both higher in density and higher physically in height as it nears the river, so you can kind of get above the flood wall and take advantage of those views. That was kind of their rationale for that type of development, both in terms of use and the physical construction of it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other further comments? Thank you, Mr. Richards.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Phelan.
I think to the water plant site of anything, the city of Grand Forks owns that site. And so I think we have a concept there, but there's much more work to do. We'll have to eventually do an RFP of some sort about what we actually want in that area. And we should make sure, just like the water plant, that it continues to add value over the next 100 years, just like the water plant. So I think we should be very careful on making sure we make the right selection, not only for the first 5 years, but for the remaining 95 years. So we'll pay a special attention to that. So whatever you see there might become the concept plus or minus, but there's much more work to be done, especially when we control the destiny of that site. We're really in a unique process. Yes.
Before you move on, will we have an opportunity for neighborhood engagement in that area to get feedback before we get too far down that process too?
Yeah, Mayor Brown and members of the City Council. I think once we have this kind of final action plan or master plan, then it's to engage the neighborhoods and get some further feedback over this summer. And obviously with the water treatment plant site, you just heard we're probably going to decommission the water plant sometime in the summer of 2020. And then we would start to look at likely demolition for all the site or to some degree. And so there's some time that's available. And then obviously we'd move forward with an RFP process with a kind of a concept of what we want submitters to provide. We really have a unique opportunity. At the same time, we're working on the downtown. Ironically enough, we're looking at our other downtown, which is the University Avenue, Cooley to Columbia. And President Kennedy, this is one of his primary inspirations, and I think it was a really good plan, and we should be very thankful. I should also notate that Councilmember Weigel has also served on this committee, and so we wanted to give you a highlight of kind of where we're at here. Really one of the inspirations of moving forward with the University Avenue project, and it started out Cooley to Columbia, and it's gone all the way to 42nd, was the fact that there were going to be significant improvements that were going to be made on University Avenue. Number one being the student union, which is moving forward Number 2 was the College of Business and Public Administration, and thankfully through this legislative session and a private donor, that project looks to be moving forward. And I think the distinctiveness of this College of Business and Public Administration is this is the hope for the university is this is going to be kind of the front porch for the university for the public to engage on the University of North Dakota, since it is a school of business and public administration. So I think there's an opportunity for the city of Grand Forks to get further engaged as part of this particular project. The ones that we don't have on here are, the Gershman Center is moving forward, the Chester Fritz Library, and so really the push for the university is while we're doing all that construction, can we get the University Avenue, and thankfully for the City Council that it's about $11 million project, of which we're participating at about $4 million of that $11 million. So that's moving forward. The other thing we're participating in, Mr. Gangler's been, as part of their master plan, is that looking at public-private partnerships. And with the building across the university, this would be looking north across up top, looking north from the Student Union, would be a public-private partnership. And they are doing some requests for information and that sort of thing at the university for proposals. And so we're as part of that because there is a planning and zoning matter as part of what they're planning. So we're part of those teams, and you'll see more of that coming forward. And then there's another public-private partnership, and this would look, you would be looking across where the current fraternity sorority row is to that parking lot where they would have a concentric and parallel sororities and fraternities that you would line the university. And so as you see in this area, this is where that sorority fraternity row. So as you came into university, you would have this as a mirror of the other side. The other thing that Mr. Weigel has brought up, and we're trying to work to finalize this, the Cooley to Columbia is ending right here at Columbia Road. From the overpass here, down here by the parking structure through this intersection is going to get reconstructed in the next couple of years. I think it's in 2020 I think it's in 2021. But what do we do with this stretch of University Avenue? And so we're contemplating how to integrate that as part of the whole. And so we'll be looking at whether it's next year or the year after, trying to integrate that section of University as we move forward. The other partnerships that we have is, number one, I spoke of the streets and streetscapes, the P3 projects and the micro PODs that you'll be seeing as we move forward, is trying to enhance some of those public-private partnerships. The other one is transit, and Mr. Bergman has been doing a terrific job along with his team on the transit. So the latest update that you'll hear is that we're focused more on the August 2020 or the fall semester of 2020 to integrate our two bus systems between UND and the City of Grand Forks. So there's an MPO study that's soon to be wrapping up and that we're going to present to you. And it looks like at this point in time that it's a win-win. It's a win for the university. It's a win for the city. From a cost benefit perspective, and at the same time that we can integrate our two bus systems. So more to come on that over the summer. One of the leading edge things that we do need to do is Mr. Bergman has been able to procure 3 buses, new buses for the routes in this particular area. UND has agreed to pay for the local match as part of that. So, and usually it's an 80-20, 80% federal, 20% local. So we have to get those buses on order this summer so that when we start the following summer with this transportation system, that everything can be in line. So I just want to make you aware in this June and July timeframe, some of the leading edge things are going to move forward. The MPO study, moving forward with rolling stock, and then trying to get ready for the fall semester of 2020 as we move forward. I would say not with 100% certainty, but I think with pretty good significant certainty that it looks like it can work out, but we got to work through the university to get the letter saying they want to move it forward, but it looks generally pretty good at this point in time. Our internship program, we have 17 under contract this year across, I think, 11 departments, so we're getting more and more interns throughout the whole city, throughout all aspects of city government, so that's been great. I want to highlight Melanie Parvey from Water has been kind of the leading edge for some re-engaged research partnerships. So we have this isn't primarily with the engineering department. We have a study going on with the regional water treatment plant and some of the systems there. We will have one at the wastewater treatment plant, and finally we have one looking at the water quality for the Red River and the Red Lake River. And those are all partnerships between the City of Grand Forks, adding value to us, but also with engineering professors and their graduate and undergraduate students. So you'll hear more about some of the outcomes as we move forward, but just so you know, we're engaged in at least 3 of those studies as we move forward. And then we also are participating in some of the Main Street GF Challenge, and this has been led by the many organizations, of which we're one of many. And it looks like they have 7 challenge winners that they're going to move forward with. And generally with these challenge winners, they come back with community development type projects that we help participate as we move forward. So I wanted to give you a highlight on all those. And now I think because the city of Grand Forks, the mayor and our city council, you have been leading on downtown redevelopment and all those programs. You've been leading on these and partnering with UND on the Cooley, Columbia to Cooley and beyond, and all the other programs. Mr. Holt is here on behalf of the Knight Foundation to discuss some of the things that they're looking at in between these 2 important areas of our community. So with that, I'd ask Mr. Holt to come up and his team.
Welcome.
Good evening. I am Becca Bondmiller, Executive Director of the Community Foundation. As many of you know, Grand Forks has a unique relationship with the Knight Foundation out of Miami. We are one of 26 Knight communities, as we refer to them, and these are the 26 cities that the Knight brothers publish newspapers in, and have now invested in a foundation, the Knight Foundation, and they contribute back to those communities. At the core of their work, Knight has sought to attract and nurture talent, enhance opportunities, and foster civic engagement in these communities. Rather than a singular approach across all of the 26 cities, for years Knight has worked closely with these community foundations. So the Community Foundation right here in Grand Forks, to identify efforts that are authentic to our community through investments made through their donor advised fund at the foundation. For the past year and a half, that focus has been on community engagement opportunities between the university campus and its students and the downtown area. Together, we have invested in the Longest Table, the Main Street Grand Forks Challenge, and most recently, the 2020 Vision Project. This year, with exciting opportunities taking place both on campus and in our downtown neighborhood, we knew of no better investment than the neighborhoods linking the 2. Earlier this spring, we issued an RFP and selected JLG Architects to complete a master plan of University Avenue from North 3rd Street to Columbia Road. I'll now turn it over to Jonathan.
Welcome.
Thank you, Becca. Mayor Brown, members of the City Council, Jonathan Holt with JLG Architects, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about the process that we'll be undergoing on this project. As Becca mentioned, JLG was selected to do a study and really a visioning exercise of the University Avenue corridor from downtown to Columbia Road. We'll be kicking off that process here this week, and really the process will be looking at 3 sort of main areas of focus. Number 1, streetscape opportunities. Number 2, we'll look at transportation opportunities. And number 3, we'll look at real estate development opportunities. Really, what that means with the real estate development is looking at the corridor and are there potential stoppage points along the corridor that could make it more vibrant for citizens that are traveling between campus and downtown. We will be really having a heavy community engagement process. We've found in our planning processes that there's never any shortage of ideas in the community. Our job is to elevate those ideas and find out if they can or can't work. So we'll be kicking things off in the near future with a community-wide online survey where people can identify their hopes and desires and concerns for University Avenue. There's obviously a lot of stakeholders that come into play, people that live there along the corridor, people that might travel on the corridor on a regular basis. There are property owners, there are schools nearby, so there are children crossing University Avenue. So we're just going to get a ton of feedback from the community, from the residents, from people that live and travel down the corridor. We'll develop a diverse steering committee that will meet throughout the summer. And then in the fall, we'll do some student engagement to really get the students' feedback on how they feel about the corridor, and then deliver some recommendations in the fall, probably November, December. We recognize that there is a mill and overlay scheduled for this stretch next year. So I promised Mr. Walker and the engineering department that our job was to not make their life more difficult, but to work in conjunction with them and really look at what the streetscape opportunities would be within the guidelines of a mill and overlay, but also understanding that that mill and overlay projects have a lifespan of 7 to 10 years. So looking at sort of a phase 2 of what could that look like in 7 to 10 years from now. So we'll really be approaching that streetscape in a 2-phase plan. So that's sort of a look at what we're going to be doing on the process. I imagine that we will be back a couple times probably in the summer and fall to update you. And at this point, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Holt? Mr. Vian?
And I'm sure we'll get into this. The transportation, what are you thinking of for transportation? Are you looking at like vehicle, bicycles, or are you getting into electric or anything else? What's that scope look like?
I think right now, at this stage in the process, everything is on the table. I think we'll look at all of it. We understand that there are certainly different uses for traveling that corridor, whether it's pedestrians, bicycles, vehicles, bus. We understand that there is parking along that corridor that the residents of University Avenue rely on. So we're going to be looking at all of that. I would also say that although the scope of this project is University Avenue itself, we'll look at the connection between campus and downtown. So if there are opportunities on streets near University that provide better opportunities for some of those things, we'll certainly look at that and make those recommendations as well. So I would say that right now all of it is on the table. When we get some feedback in the coming months, we'll have a little more focus on that.
Thank you, Ms. Mock. Oh, Ms. Dockler.
Unless you have something you want to share. I know that Ward 2 residents in particular are very interested in this conversation, and so they're looking forward to having those kind of public meetings and putting in their public input. And so where is that information going to be shared? Where should they be looking in the future for that? And it's kind of twofold, actually, my question.
Sure.
My other part of the question is also, how are you planning on bringing together that diverse group for the steering committee? Are residents going to be included on that? Are they going to be kind of appointed, or are people going to be able to kind of put themselves forward as being someone to be placed on it?
Sure. Excellent questions. Thank you, Councilwoman Dockler. I think in terms of the opportunities to participate, we will do our best to advertise them well in advance in a number of different occasions, or a number of different places. The online survey will be out shortly, and you can certainly you'll be able to find that on the Community Foundation website, on the JLG Architects website. We'll get it out on social media, hopefully partnership with the city to have them help us get it out there. In terms of the community engagement and public events, we'll use as much media as possible, social media, and we'll also be gathering, residents and property owners' names and maybe doing some direct mailers as well. So we'll make sure it doesn't do us any good if we get a low turnout at those events. So we'll be blasting that out there. In terms of the steering committee, I think one of the questions that will be on the online survey is, would you like to be involved with this process? So people will be able to certainly throw their hat in the ring. We want that steering committee to be made up of residents, property owners, students, parents of students that go to schools nearby, people that live there, people that live on the corridor, people that travel up and down it every day. We want a lot of different users and stakeholders at the table, obviously people from the UND campus as well. So once we get some feedback from the survey, we'll start to develop that steering committee, and if people want to participate, I think there will be a lot of opportunity to participate in this throughout the summer.
Just a follow-up to, where are those meetings when they are in person? Where are they going to be held? Do you have any idea? Are we looking at the fire station on the north side of town, in Ward 2, archives? Are they more localized like that, or are they going to be held downtown at City Hall?
I would say probably some of all of those. I think we'll go to different places, and I think one thing that happens all too often in community engagement processes is that we expect people to come to us. So instead, we will go to where people are. So whether that's University Park in the summertime, whether that's fire stations, whether it's downtown, I think we want to make those meetings as accessible as possible. Sometimes that means having them in unique locations. But I think that we will, I don't think they'll be in one spot. I think we'll have a few of them, and they'll be spread around and also held at different times and different days of the week to accommodate people's differing schedules.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments from council? Thank you, Mr. Hall.
Thank you.
And next we go to 2.5.
Proclamation, North Dakota State Mill Day, June 6th.
So the proclamation states North Dakota State Mill Day, June 6, 2019. The North Dakota Mill and Elevator Association was established on February 25th, 1919, and began operating October 20th, 1922 as a result of a lengthy effort to break the grain trade monopoly and avoid the extra shipping costs to Minneapolis that yielded lower prices for North Dakota farmers. For 100 years, the North Dakota Mill's purpose has been to promote and provide support to the North Dakota agriculture, commerce, and industry by providing superior quality, consistency, and service to customers and growing a profit to our owners, the citizens of North Dakota. Serving North Dakota farmers and the state for a century as the only state-owned mill in the nation, the North Dakota Mill grinds 33 million bushels of top-quality spring wheat and durum per year and has the capacity to store 5 million bushels of grain. The North Dakota Mill receives no financial assistance from the state of North Dakota, but rather has contributed in excess of 50% of its profits to the general fund for more than 35 years. That has had a $255 million direct economic impact to the region, with over 90% of sales revenue derived from customers outside the state, produces value-added income to the state and for its residents. North Dakota Mill workers, supported by North Dakota AFL-CIO and the BCTGM Local 167 since 1968, represent good local jobs and boost the regional economy with an annual payroll of $14 million. The North Dakota Mill has over the years worked cooperatively with state agencies in promoting North Dakota and its high-quality products by participating in international trade teams, serving as a research center, and by shipping Dakota-made products nationwide. Now, therefore, I am Michael Brown, Mayor of Grand Forks, do hereby resolve that June 6, 2019 is dedicated as the North Dakota State Mill and Elevator Day to congratulate and thank the North Dakota Mill and Elevator Association and its employees for their 100 years of service to all the people in the state of North Dakota. And I endorse Dakota-made bread flour, if anybody has a question on that. Mr. Fromke, will you please come forward?
So how you doing?
Good.
I'm going to talk a little bit louder because I might not hear so good. But if I blow you out against the wall, just tell me lower it. But anyway, first off, I'd like to thank, the City Council, President Dana Sandy, Mayor Michael Brown, and so forth. And I wanted to give you a quick little history. You may not know this about this great city of Grand Forks, North Dakota. In 1911, the North Dakota AFL was created. At that time, before that, we were part of the Minnesota AFL. And the first conference to develop the North Dakota AFL was held in Grand Forks, North Dakota. And the first president of the North Dakota AFL, his name was Ralph Bates. And Ralph Bates, the unions now are no longer there, but he was a bookbinder. And so when you look through your old books, maybe the first president of the North Dakota AFL, who was from Grand Forks, maybe put together that book for you. And so, and our first meetings were held in the old part that's still here of City Hall that was built in 10, and so forth. So when I come to this podium, I always feel at ease because I can feel my ancestors here. But what is so important about this year, 2019? 100 years ago in our great state of North Dakota, the nonpartisan league that took over had the governor, Lynn Frazier, and had the House and won the Senate in the 1918 elections. passed at least 2 important bills that created the North Dakota State Bank and also the North Dakota State Mill and Elevator. And the first mill and elevator they had was in Drake, North Dakota. And no offense to Drake, North Dakota, but it was kind of an old rundown mill. And why did it come to Grand Forks? It's because of Grand Forks' vision. There was business owners that took upon themselves to buy a hunk of land and donate it so that the state mill and elevator could be built in this great city. And so that was the historical parts. And today, 100 years later, the state mill and elevator, through most of its history, has put money into the Bank of North Dakota to be spent through the state on very good projects. But important to our city, that piece of history is here today. It's producing money, and the workers that work there live in this great city and surrounding area. And so, why June 6th? Well, June 6th is the date of the North Dakota AFL-CIO convention here in our city of Grand Forks at the Ramada Inn. And it starts at 9 o'clock in the morning on Thursday. And so this year, at our convention, we are going to really magnify the fact of the state mill and elevator and its 100 years of glory. And also that the state mill and elevator is also the only identity in the state of North Dakota that's public employees that sign a contract with the union. And so we really appreciate this tribute resolution to the workers and to the state mill. My union, the BCTGM, no, I didn't work there. I worked in East Grand Forks at the meat plant. But anyway, so today, on behalf of the North Dakota AFL-CIO, on behalf of the Northern Valley Labor Council AFL-CIO, your local union people that produce wonderful people like myself, that I want to invite the mayor to give the opening to the North Dakota AFL-CIO convention, and also I'd like to invite President Dana Sandy and you, City Council, to come to the AFL-CIO convention on June 6th, 9 o'clock sharp, and be part of this historical moment for the workers from the BCTGM, State Mill, and also to the North Dakota delegates. And so I know I've gone over my 3 minutes, but I'm like, you know, what is that bunny, Energizer bunny? You wind me up, it's hard to shut me down. But anyway, I hope you all can on City Council come with the mayor and be there for this event, handing over the proclamation, because it is a historical event, not only for the union, but for, again, our city and our state. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Fromke. I'll see you there. Any questions or comments from council?
Where is it that we need to be on Thursday morning at 9 o'clock, Mr. Fromke? Ramada Inn. Very good.
Ramada Inn, yes. The Grand Forks Ramada Inn, 9 o'clock.
See you
You
there.
get on Gateway and then you take a left.
You can, yes, yeah. Thank you very much.
Right, and you go south too far, you're in Fargo, and if you go the other way, you're at the U.S. border.
Thank you. So item 3 is the public hearings and second reading of ordinances, 3.1.
Public hearing on application for property tax incentive for new or expanding business for PS Industries doing business as PS Stores located 1150 South 48th Street.
Open the public hearing on 3.1. We'll close the public hearing on 3.1. Council comments on 3.1. Mr. Sandy motions, Mr. Vian seconds. All in favor say aye. Opposed, carries. Thank you. 3.2.
Public hearing and second reading of ordinance annexation portions of I-29 not already annexed.
Open the public hearing on 3.2. Close the public hearing on 3.2. Council comments on 3.2. Mr. Weigel motions, Ms. Dockler seconds. All in favor say aye. Opposed, carries. Thank you. 3.3.
Public hearing and certification snow removal assessments, project 8031.
So I'll open the public hearing on 3.3. I'll close the public hearing on 3.3. Mr. Sandy?
Mr. Mayor, I don't recall seeing the format that we received today. Is this, we got a general list of addresses with fees. I don't recall seeing this same sort of format in the past. Is this new?
Maureen?
Yeah. President Sandy, Mayor Brown, members of council, it's the process that we go through with the snow removal assessments. It's different than a normal special assessment process, but it's no change in the process for snow removal.
Very good. There were some people that obviously should have done their snow more than they did last winter.
This process parallels what we do with lawn mowing? Very similar?
It's a similar process, correct?
Thanks.
So we open and close the public hearing on 3.3. Council action on 3.3. Mr. Weigel motions, Mr. Weber seconds. All in favor say aye. Opposed, carries. Thank you. 3.4.
That's public hearing on resolution and necessity determination of protest for project 7907, District 723 paving street lighting Opportunity Park First Re-subdivision. No protests were received.
I'll open the public hearing on 3.4. Close the public hearing on 3.4. Council action on 3.4. Mr. Weber motions. Mr. Sandy seconds. All in favor say aye. Opposed, carries. Thank you. Item 4, who would like action items pulled for discussion? I will pull 4.1 and 4.2. Any other action items to be pulled for discussion? If not, that leaves 4.3, 4.4, 4.3 has been pulled. If not, that leaves 4.4, 4.5, 4.6, 4.7, 4.8, 4.9, 4.10, 4.11, and 4.12 for a motion and a second. Mr. Sandy motions, Mr. Vian seconds. All in favor say aye. Opposed, carries. Thank you. 4.1.
Peer development TIF project update.
Mr. Phelan.
Mayor Brown, members of the City Council, I'm here for, I think, a positive amendment to the peer development, and this is otherwise known as a Hugo's mixed-use development. I think what we have in front of you is essentially a similar project. We have Hugo's grocery store, we have the Alaris, and a drive-through. And finally, we have additional apartments. And as the staff report and the TIF application that was updated by Mr. Ritterman states, that they are able to provide another floor to that building. It originally was a 4-story structure with those 2 commercial tenants, and then with 25 affordable rate apartments, 25 market rated apartments, but with the additional 5th floor, they can place another 18 apartments at the 50-50 share of 9 affordable and 9 market rate. And that's what's in front of you today. We think it's important. It's a 1 in 100 year kind of project, and so that if we're able from a geotechnical perspective add more floors, we think that's a good thing. It's in the same proportion that was originally placed. It's $3 million. It's worth the value of the project's $3 million in addition with that additional infrastructure that they placed with the geotechnical stuff and all the additional floor as we move forward. But as I followed up with Mr. Swanson, it is a substantial change to the original TIF, and so Mr. Swanson recommended, as per his memorandum to you, is that we amend this particular TIF and move forward with the public hearing process, of which we're requesting. So, number 1, we request that we still concur with the 80% tax exemption over 15 years. That was part of the original. We did follow up with what was formerly Springstead, now it's Baker Tilly. Springstead is our financial advisor. They've been purchased by a larger conglomerate, CPA, public accounting firm. And so we did follow up with our original analyst, Michaela Hewitt, and based upon her initial review, she doesn't see anything that's really changed in this process with the additional of the apartments. And so that's her first review. She will provide that in writing, her opinion. before you render a final opinion, but that's a preliminary view of this particular project. We will have to send certified letters to both the school district and Grand Forks County, to the chairs of both of those entities. I have emailed them and given them a heads up. I have also talked to them personally, but we will need to do a certified letter. And so I will follow up that if you do approve this tonight, we will send out certified letters tomorrow so that we can be within the 30-day range and still be at a public hearing on July 15th. So we will follow up with that. We also, though not necessary, per state law, we do inform the Park District. Currently, the Park District is part of the City of Grand Forks as a city entity. And then finally, I mentioned the public hearing date of July 15th, and we'll certainly follow up with any other additions with the City Attorney's Office. As we move forward, the important part, Mr. Weber has asked me on an ongoing basis, so when is the project going to move forward? And as part of the application and speaking with Mr. Ritterman and Mr. Tweeten, they are planning to start construction in July. I suspect they're going to wait until, this final TIF exemption hearing is moved forward in July 15th and then start soon thereafter. I know they've been working with the Grand Forks School District to close on that property, and they are also working with Alaris to close on that particular property. And then there's some time frames that Alaris needs to notify their customers as per banking regulations, and that's like a 30-day process. So I think all things being equal, we thought maybe they would have had those buildings, or they'd be under construction at this point in time, because all of our earlier discussion was the reason why we moved up Demers Avenue was because of this development in part. But we should also be very thankful for Mr. Ritterman and Mr. Tweeten for moving forward and kind of bringing all these several entities together to move forward with the Pure Development Project. They're also under construction, as we can see in downtown with the Selkirk condos, and that's going along well, it appears. And so we owe them some gratitude on moving forward with projects. It's easy to talk about doing downtown projects. Well, Mr. Tweeten and Mr. Ritterman have actually done it, so we're thankful for that. So with that, I think it's a promise of a larger project, more people living downtown, more value to the project, more taxing for all the entities available. And again, remember that they still are going to maintain the current tax level at this property that Alaris is paying currently, and it's only exempting the increment or the additional value that goes into the property. And in this case, there's going to be additional value with that. So with that, Mr. Tweeten is here on behalf of Firethorn LLC. He and Mr. Ritterman are the two partners in that. So if you have any additional questions for Mr. Tweeten is here to answer that. And with that, that's all that I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Phelan. Mr. Swanson.
Mayor Brown, members of the council, the matter before you today essentially gives you two options. The first option would be to decline allowing the additional project to be included in a TIF. If you take that approach, then no further action would occur on the requested change to the TIF. If, however, you want to move forward with including the additional change, the action to be taken tonight would be to call for a public hearing and direct that notice be given. You cannot actually act on the TIF application or the amendment to the TIF project until you hold that public hearing.
Okay. Mr. Sandy.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson. Mr. Mayor, for all of the reasons why I moved approval of this project months ago, plus 3 million additional reasons, I'll move approval of this.
You have a motion to approve, second?
Suggest we set the public hearing and give notice.
Mr. Vian, second. Any further council comments, Mr. Weber?
Yes, Mr. Tweeten, we're lucky to have you and your partners doing so much good work and investing in downtown.
Thank you.
And thanks for that. And congratulations on this expanded project. Hoping to break ground in July.
That's right, yep.
So doors would be opening now in 2020?
Yeah, that's right, in the fall.
So you get the skin on the building by the time the snow
Actually,
flies?
there's precast for the first 2 floors, and so then that'd be done by fall, and this winter we'd finish the framing for the upper floors.
Very good.
All the bids are coming in right now as we're speaking, so we have majority of our heavy, from our precast to our excavation to utilities, all those bids are in, and they're all on budget, and so the final finishes are coming in this week.
It's going to be a new improved downtown, and in large part thanks to you and your work, so thank you.
Thank you. Yes, it's a nice project for downtown.
And
Any
Mayor
further-
Brown, if I could add,
Mr.
I think it's maybe this delayed, there's always a silver lining, is that, remember, we're going to do Fifth Street next year. And when we look at Fifth Street, because we switched them, remember, we did Demers Avenue and then we flipped Demers to Fifth to 2020. The first block, or the block from Demers Avenue to First Avenue, will be reconstructed with the streetscape. I think we're going to get the DOT to agree to that. And then beyond First Avenue to University Avenue will be more of a routine kind of finish. So I think it'll actually work well. We'll get the reconstruction of both the Demers Avenue and Fifth Street in time for the grand opening in the fall. So I think everything will really come together, and it'll be a real wow, I think, downtown.
Well, thank you. Any further council comments? If not, we have a motion and a second before us. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Trees. 4.2,
Grand Forks Renaissance Zone Project GF60 Epic Place.
Ms. Richards.
Good evening. This is a request from Epic Holdings LLC for a project at 22 South 3rd Street. Ellie's Ivy operates their restaurant on the main floor of this building, and the application is to renovate the vacant second story into 7 market rate apartments. Per Renaissance Zone policy, if approved, this would give the applicant a 5-year exemption on state income tax for revenue generated by this investment, as well as exempt property tax for 5 years on the value added by this improvement. The Renaissance Zone requirements also require that the project be approved both locally and at the state level before any work commence on the project. The owners are very eager to get started, so we are bringing this forward directly to City Council with a request to approve this contingent on receipt of a certificate of good standing from the State Tax Commission, and authorize staff to submit it to Department of Commerce for further action.
Thank you. Council questions or comments? Mr. Swanson?
Is there a notice requirement to the other governmental entities? I've not reviewed the application or.
No, this is capped at 5 years, so only if it's more than 5 years is the notice required. So this one is strictly informational.
Okay. Mr. Weber, motion. Ms. Dockler, second. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. We have no introductions to ordinance tonight. Item 5, informational items, 5.1.
Investment portfolio summary is of April 30th.
Thank you. Item 6, citizen requests. I have none. Item 7, approve the minutes and bills, 7.1.
The vendor list and engineer's estimate as presented.
Mr. Weigel motions to pay the bills, second Ms. Doctor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Thank you. The bills are paid. Item 8, city administrator comments. Mr. Phelan. None? None tonight. Item 9, mayor and council member comments. Councilman Weigel.
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councilwoman Dockler. Councilman Weber.
Very quickly, Mr. Mayor, we're always fortunate to have people willing to donate their time to serve on various committees and boards. Tonight, we have we've approved a particularly impressive group of people who are willing to give their time.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mock. Council Vice President Vian.
Just a reminder that Altra is having their groundbreaking ceremony on Wednesday, I believe.
The 5th.
And the community and employee celebrations at 5:45 at Sertoma Park.
Thank you. Council President Sandy.
A lot of things going on that Wednesday. Unfortunately, I have to go to Bismarck that day for a 20-minute meeting, so I'll be in the car for 8 hours. And I won't be able to make any of the events that day. Speaking of people that donate their time, Mr. Weber and I were fortunate that we got to meet the new city forester today, this afternoon, talking about trees for downtown, and I think I believe there's going to be an article in the paper tomorrow about the selection of trees. I think after, Mr. Mayor, after our discussion, staying the course with the plan that the engineering and the engineering folks and the downtown planning group brought forward with the tulips trees, perhaps looking at some different varietals, but I think staying the course with what we had originally planned is the best course of action, rather than trying to re-engineer things today. So,
Okay.
thank you, sir.
I agree. Thank you. And I want to thank Outdoor Recreation at the Grand Forks Air Force Base for sponsoring the 31st Annual Kids Fishing Derby at Larimore Dam. Congratulations to all the graduates. Art on the Red is at University Park this weekend, June 8th and 9th. And then Anything Goes at the Alara Center. Farmers Market, January 15th, starts across the street from City Hall. and June 6th is North Dakota State Mill Day. With that, we take a motion to adjourn. Mr. Sandy motions. Mr. Weigel quickly seconds. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you. Al.
Thank you for being with us tonight. This meeting has been brought to you in part by
Let Grand Forks International Airport help you start your next vacation off on the right foot. Grand Forks International Airport offers flights to the sunny destinations of Orlando, Las Vegas, and Phoenix on Allegiant, and connections anywhere in the world through Minneapolis-St. Paul on Delta. Forget the hassle of long drives, parking nightmares, and stressful check-ins. The convenience of flying locally means less headaches and more time for you. Grand Forks International Airport. Your airport. Simply grand.
How many things in your house connect to the internet? Let's see. Computers, smartphones, gaming console, maybe your appliances and lights. They say that by the year 2020, the average home will have 5 devices for every one person. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to be average. We're going to need much better internet.
Midco Extreme Gig is here. Life changing.
Know what's in this box? Well, in case your crystal ball is broken, here's a hint. Safe, reliable energy, for starters, but there's also a commitment to this community. See, at Xcel Energy, this is our hometown. So we're not just about making a living here, we're about living here. Oh, I wish I had wings.
In our community, we're always delivering. Xcel Energy, responsible by nature.
As a farm kid from North Dakota, I was raised to face challenges head-on. But that was put to the test when I was diagnosed with cancer as a teenager. Now, I'm determined to help kids overcome illnesses like I did. So I started my journey at the University of North Dakota. With hard work and determination, I'll help others like my doctors helped me. I'm making my impact. How will you make yours?